Kingdom, welcome into the AP Film Room on the Arrowhead Pride YouTube page. Appreciate you joining us on this lovely evening that we are recording, a Tuesday evening. Whenever you're watching it, appreciate you joining us again. I'm Ron Kopp Jr., lead analyst. Nate Christensen and Caleb James join me, two great film analysts for the site. We've been on a roll with the AP Film Rooms lately, really learning a lot about these Chiefs, guys. I'm excited. And, as exciting as this has been, Sunday's game was maybe not as exciting. We're going to pull some stuff from Sunday's game. But, Nate, I'll start with you. I don't know. How do you feel after, barely surviving Houston and kind of two games in a row where it's just like kind of just nerve-wracking how they, don't just stomp on them and kind of, finish the deal?
I think this one was more frustrating than the Broncos one, honestly.
I agree.
Which, because there wasn't, at least with like the Broncos, they had that half where it looked amazing. They didn't really look good at any point this game. Like, I mean, to be honest, I thought we were losing when we punted in overtime. Like, I fully expected them. I didn't think they'd score a touchdown, but I thought they would have gotten a field goal. And at no point in that Broncos game, even when it was frustrating, did I think they were going to lose. I don't think there was any point I thought that. And I felt that way this week. And I just thought there'd be a better response, honestly. I predicted that it was going to be a blowout, and then it just never happened. They came out flat. They really didn't have like a good second half resurgence. It just wasn't a good game.
Yeah, I agree. Naturally, right? The Denver game was 27-0 at one point. So it is different games. But Caleb, I don't know. What were your feelings coming out of Sunday as someone that did the Insta breakdown for us and kind of had to get down your thoughts on a kind of a weird game?
Well, I mean, you hit the point on the head. It was a weird game. You look at the box score, Ron, I think you mentioned this, but it looks like it would have been, if you just compare like the passing yards, rushing yards, the efficiency, the yards per carry, yards per pass, all of that. And really even, you compare the offenses, it really looked like the Chiefs should have completely blown them out of the water. But then you go in and look at the mistakes the Chiefs made, the turnovers, the defense not being able to overcome certain things. And, this was supposed to be the stretch of the season where we said, get everyone healthy, go win these home games, cruise into the playoffs. Well, it's been anything other than a cruise. It's been a bumpy ride these last couple of weeks. And this game was even more bumpy than the game in Denver last week because it came down to overtime to make it a couple of giant plays in overtime to get the win.
I know the overtime thing is an underrated thing with a playoff team, right? You don't want to play any more minutes, any more snaps than you have to at this point of the season. And that kind of does suck. Butker not finishing it for them. Little holder drama that you can kind of, maybe look on Twitter and learn a little bit more about that if you're not aware of that. Maybe that has to do with the missed field goal, but we don't talk special teams on here. We just don't. We talk offense, defense, and Nate, you're going to start us out tonight talking about the defense. Maybe not just from this game, but just you dropped an article for the site, 3 things that they need to improve on before the playoffs, and so you're going to teach us some things about the Chiefs defense.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned it. Like, there's a lot of angst over the defense right now because it just hasn't been good. Like, eye test the past 3 weeks, especially, hasn't been very good. But if you look at statistics, it's really not bad. But unfortunately, statistics just don't tell the whole story. If you just watch it from any different angle, it just looks bad right now. And there could have been a lot of different things I covered, but I really do think there's 3 main things that are problems right now. The first one is the middle of the field defense. I'm going to kind of run these clips here. The Chiefs, obviously, this year, they've been using a lot more 2 high safeties, right? Which has, been something they've done in the past, but it's been even more dialed up this year. But the problem is they're not really stopping anything in the middle of the field. This was particularly a problem versus the Broncos, where Joe Burrow, if you look at his passing chart, it was just all over the middle of the field. And to me, the biggest issue is the linebackers, Nick Bolton and Willie Gay, and I'll get into this a little bit later. They've been really, really bad in coverage the past 3 weeks. They're just actually Willie's even maybe worse than Bolton, which is surprising. But you can't send this play. It's a play action play. They both kind of enter down. Willie Gay has no idea what's going on over the middle of the field. Nick Bolton doesn't really have anything, know what's going on over the middle of the field. No one picks it off. And it was the problem again this game, which made it frustrating because Russell Wilson doesn't throw in the middle of the field, but like Davis Mills is able to throw over the middle of the field. This is the first touchdown here. And this tight end up the top here, he's kind of going to run like a little bit of like an angle route in the end zone. Watch Nick Bolton. This is like a cover one. They're playing man. He's the whole player. He just stands still. Like he doesn't, have any awareness of like the throwing windows or anything like that. This is just a play in man coverage. But again, like this is just a straight shot down the middle of the field. Tight end kind of boxes out inside positioning. That's an easy score. And what I wrote about is that like, I think the Chiefs were right to let go of Tyrann Mathieu. I don't think it's revisionist history to say otherwise. I think that was a smart decision. But they are missing his impact in the middle of the field right now, because when it would get to third down, they would drop him down in the middle of the field, essentially have him play linebacker and rob routes over the middle of the field. Well, right now they don't have that. And it's been, whether it's Brian Cook, Justin Reed, Juan Thorne, they just haven't been able to find that option this year. And I think teams are just entirely comfortable throwing into the middle of the field, which is like a problem. Like if you're going to play with two high safeties to protect your corners, you have to have linebackers that can sit in the middle of the field and rob routes. There's a reason why the 49ers are good. And right now, that's just not what it's happening with the Chiefs. It's just a problem right now. And this is now on tape 3 weeks in a row, or at least 2 of the last 3 weeks. And it's going to be a problem in the playoffs because you're going to see Joe Burrow again.
Yeah, I want to say, because you mentioned at the beginning where, hey, they are playing more too high this year, which does make sense, right? You have a lot of young defensive backs, a lot of new guys in your secondary. You're probably just going to protect them naturally by playing maybe more quarters, more too high stuff. But do you think maybe we see that dial to just maybe more, more, maybe he just kind of forces it even, just more creative coverage looks, more, risky coverage looks, to match with his blitz packages. Once we do get to the postseason, do you think there's any, or is it kind of, and I struggle with this because do they even have the playmakers to do that, right?
Right.
That's where they're missing Tyrann, like you just say.
No, it's a good question. I thought they did a little bit more of it this week, a little more like rotations and stuff like that. At least that's what I noticed today. But it's still like you can certainly do that more. And I've clamored to you. I want them to do that more. I want someone to drop in the middle of the field as like a robber. But like overall, that obviously puts a lot more trust like on your corners, your linebackers.
Yeah.
And like it puts you kind of in a bad position. And like I'm fine trusting the corners more personally. They did not have a good week this past week. I would say they actually all were pretty bad, but that's the strength of defense. But regardless, like Nick Bolton and Willie Gay have to do a better job in the middle of the field, because like if you don't want to get thrown over the top by like Josh Allen, they're gonna have to do stuff in the middle of the field, which leads to my next thing. It's time to talk about Willie Gay and Nick Bolton. They've been really bad the past 3 weeks, and I mean, they're not like Ben Neiman, Anthony Hitchens bad, but they're both kind of littered with the same issues right now, which is both of them really, really struggle to get off blocks. Like there's a couple really bad Nick Bolton clips in here. I mean, this was a longer video. I had to edit it down, but like Willie Gay has been bad in coverage lately. This has been a bad Willie Gay stretch. People talk a lot about the Darius Harris, like kind of coming on the field, and Darius Harris has been bad. So like, I get it. But like Willie Gay's not been good. And he's struggling to read things in coverage. He's been beaten man coverage like multiple times routinely by like Mike Boone or Jordan Akins or some other tight end that I don't name on the Texans. Like it just hasn't been good. And Nick Bolton's actually like he had a few better coverage reps than I expected. But like even he in this Texans game, I'll pull it up here. There was like a rep where he was trying to like break someone down in the flat, and he just falls on his butt. Like he's been bad in coverage shooting. Last week was like awful. Like he was just getting picked on in man coverage over and over again. He struggles to break down anyone in space. And I guess like I understand they both have like splash plays, and they both deserve credit for those splash plays. Like they are excited. They get TFLs and things like that. Here's the play I was talking about. Watch Nick Bolton here try and break someone down in space. Like it just doesn't look good. And like, I'm not trying to say these guys are like terrible or anything like that. I know I'm kind of like perceived as like someone who thinks that. Like, I don't actually believe that, but like they've been a problem. And the thing is, like, the Chiefs kind of like, I mean, they invested 2 top 60 picks in these guys. And when they're bad, when they're missing tackles, when they're not getting off blocks, when they're not reading things at coverage, like that's where your main investment on your defense is, outside of Chris Jones and maybe your defensive ends. And they have to play better. I guess I'll kind of hand this off to you. Like they just have to play better.
No, and I think you hit it there a little bit where it's just like they do make their plays, right? They make their splash plays. They're not making enough of them this year to overcome the kind of the negative parts of their game. And I think that's always been Willie's thing. Is we've always understood Willie's a playmaker, but there's going to be some low lights in his game, some bad angles, some missed guesses on a run, guesses on a pass, but he's going to make the plays. He hasn't made any. What play has Willie Gay made in your mind this year? Caleb, can you think of one? Nate, can you think of one? I can't think of one.
I'll say
there was a pick six a couple weeks ago. Yeah. That sounded terrible. But besides that,
right? And that was kind of a freakish play, anyways. Like it wasn't like a read or anything like that.
I know that did sound bad now that I think about it. But
no,
you're right.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like it was more of just like it wasn't like a play necessarily. Like I don't know how to frame this. Like it wasn't a play he made because of his like linebacker skills. Like it was just a play.
Can you play that last play back?
This one.
But last year he was jumping in. Last year he was jumping in front of slants. He was jumping. Last year he was getting in passing lanes. We're not seeing that this year.
Yeah. He's been bad since he came back from his suspension. Because I actually thought those first 2 weeks he was awesome. Like I was in. And then ever since, I don't know what it is, I couldn't tell you, but ever since then, it just hasn't been as good. Like it really hasn't.
Caleb, do you have something on the clips? I was
just gonna say, and I thought this was a decent example, but you got your defensive end on this play, and to me, the way the Chiefs play defense, the way Spags wants to call his defense, it really does start up front. I think that's how teams have to play defense in the NFL. You have to invest in your defensive line over everything else. And whether it was a bad call why Karlaftis goes inside here or he just read something and decided to, that is basically just, it's getting the tackle up there a lot quicker without having, at least some sort of resistance there to set the edge on that. But Nate, these plays where he's throwing over the middle, there's not even a soul near him.
So open.
I mean, these guys are open. Yeah.
I'll go to my next clip, but just like watch Nick Bolton here. Like this is the play with like a QB sweep and he gets blocked 18 yards downfield. He has no idea where the ball is. And like people on Twitter were telling me he actually did a good job there, which like I wasn't going to argue with people about that. But like, no, like he's, I guess to give a quick Bolton take, like, yes, he is an awesome tackler when he's like straight, like when he can fly at someone downhill. He is explosive downhill. Everything else is not very good. And that was my problem with him coming into the draft. I acknowledge that like his best moments are really, really good. But like my problem with Bolton discourse is like everyone notices that, but like the other problems he has in his game are real problems. He's not a very good athlete. He doesn't read the middle of the field well. He doesn't get off blocks. Like if we can acknowledge that both those things are true, I'm okay with him saying he's like an average linebacker in the NFL. Where I kind of go insane is when people tell me he's an all-pro linebacker and that he's as good as Fred Warner or Darius Leonard or like all these great linebackers, because I don't understand like how you can watch him play and say that. I'm sorry, I got to get off this rant.
Yes, no, and Nate, I appreciate your passion. This is why the AP Film Room is what it is and why Arrowhead Pride has great writers. And the thing is with Bolton is he's such a polarizing player because he's so young too. Like he should not be a perfect player and have these flaws and weaknesses. But everyone, since he had so many tackles last year and he was kind of the hot rookie, everyone wanted to anoint him already and make him one of the best linebackers in the league. Yes. Hey, hand up. Bold prediction for me this year was that he'd be an all-pro linebacker. It was a bold prediction. It was me totally based on, hey, total tackles, rack up a bunch of, just because he's on the field 100% of the time because he was a dime linebacker. But yeah, I just think we need to get to a happy medium where he's a playmaker. He's a playmaker. Yes. He's on the field for a reason. He's the Mike, and honestly, he's doing a good job calling the defense. It seems like I would say it doesn't seem like we have a lot of miscommunication.
Hand up here. When the draft happened, I said he was not as good as Anthony Hitchens. That was dumb. I was wrong. I was wrong. I admit it. Like he is a better player than that. I'm just saying when you average out all his positives and negatives, he's probably close to an average linebacker, which is fine. That doesn't mean he's awful. That doesn't mean he shouldn't play. He should absolutely play. But you can't. I just get annoyed when like people just look at his tackle stats and be like, well, Nick Bolton was good today. He had 18 tackles. It's like, well, that doesn't tell the story.
I know,
Right.
and we'll get off of this, but
Yeah.
it's just my point is that he's a young player that can get better at some of these things,
For sure.
and and maybe down the road, so it doesn't make you wrong when if he is a really good linebacker in 5-6 years or something, he's a vet that everyone loves, but yeah, there's flaws in his game right now. Caleb, I'll give you one if you have any more things to add to the defense, and then you can take over and talk about your topic.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that we've seen 3 straight weeks of what happens when Chris Jones goes dormant. Nothing's going to happen with the defense. They don't have another playmaker really anywhere out there that can make a real impact play in the game. They can get some spurts here and there from some guys, but they're not going to get, that consistent, other impact player, kind of like how that Tyrann Mathieu could, how Tyrann could make those plays here and there. But I'll get my video going here. And this week I wrote about Jerick McKinnon because I thought, his game this week, I thought it was a, really good indictment of who he is as a player and how big of a player he's become for the Chiefs. And I also thought it was interesting that we saw Isaiah Pacheco struggle a lot in the first half. Last week we were hyping up Pacheco a lot. I did a lot of breakdown on him. This week, 2 critical errors leads to McKinnon getting a lot more run time. But first things first, I think with McKinnon, the thing to remember, and I'll let the clip play out. I'll let these clips play out, and then I'll kind of go back and break them down while I do a little monologue here. But he's been in the league since 2014. He's not like some young running back like the Chiefs have had in the past couple of seasons. He's a guy that's he's already a lot of his best football is probably behind him, but he still does the little things well that Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy want to see in their running backs in their offense that are getting him these key playing time, this key playing time down the stretch. And whether it's been the Clyde Edwards-Helaire injury or Pacheco just being a rookie, he has stepped up every bit of the way again for a second consecutive season. And it looks like he's going to be, headed into the postseason. I argue he'll probably be the number 1 back here once the playoffs start again. And him and, Pacheco, their contrasting styles of play are kind of, making things a little harder on these teams. But first thing I like about McKinnon, he is always going to sell out and do whatever is asked of him. That's how he's been in the league this long. He's a savvy guy. He knows what to do. Chiefs got full slide protection right here. That means McKinnon is going to be one-on-one versus the guy on the left side of the line of scrimmage there. And McKinnon squares him up. And really the big emphasis on like cut blocks in the NFL is they don't want people like diving out at knees. They can do it inside of the tackles. That's like the rule. If you go outside of the tackles too much, they don't really want you doing that. They'll throw a flag on that. But what I like about McKinnon here is he comes in about waist level and knocks the guy off his feet. Well, this ends up being pretty big for a couple reasons because Noah Gray is going to get beat, but instead of having 2 guys just burning around the edge on him, Pat can just kind of leisurely survey the field, roll, and he picks up an easy 5 or 6 yards here just because he had a guy, an undersized running back who was selling out to lay down a guy right there. So that's just a good effort play. That's kind of who he is. But then, Pacheco, when you watch Pacheco run, he's just trying to run into people. He's just wants to be a bull in the china shop. He's trying to hit it 100 miles an hour. He's trying to hit the gas. And, sometimes he needs to slow it down because he can miss some things. And this is a very deceptive play by the Texans. Now, I'm sure if we're on Twitter, you see this big hole on the right side. I'd have 9 people telling me he missed this hole on the right side. Look at the top right of the corner. Boom. You got your safety coming down. And as we see, you have another guy coming in on the right side of the screen. Those guys are there to make that play, okay? They're there to make the tackle. But what I like about this, McKinnon recognizes what they're trying to do, but right here, he knows, hey, my center's really good. 52 is really good. And he's also kind of picking up on, well, these guys, Wiley, Trey got their blocks. 52 and 57 are climbing here. And now 52 and 57 engage at the same time. Well, this is a play Orlando Brown is going to win. He can just put all of his weight on this guy. And McKinnon's kind of reading this, and he does the little electric slide, and Travis Kelce gets just enough of his guy that McKinnon is able to turn this into about 8 yards. And this is what I think they've been missing from the running back room. When Clyde is running hard, it's because he's just putting his head down and getting whatever he can. When McKinnon does the same thing, it's because he's also putting his head down and just trying to use his physical gifts. you've got a running back in here now with a little bit of savvy, and he's reading all of this stuff perfectly. He knows that Kelsey is going to be reliable enough to get the seal block there on the backside. Big pickup of 8. And I did mention, McKinnon got to play a lot because Pacheco struggled. This is a good example by Pacheco here of how he is very close to ripping a long run. He is getting ridiculously close to busting a giant run on somebody, especially when you have, this team right here. They have there's one linebacker basically is a walk-up 3 technique. Oh, need to get back on that here real quick. But they're playing these loose kind of these loose looks. They have linebackers walked up trying to play this stuff. But here's an interesting run. Never seen the Chiefs run this before with Andy Reid. It's a unique look. Really, this play kind of combines some zone principles, some pin and pull principles, and it kind of hits, honestly, like a trap the way the Chiefs run it. This play is called wipe. I'm fairly new to this play. I just discovered it from another Chiefs film analyst posted it the other day. I had never seen this play before in all the years I've been watching and studying offensive line play. But basically, Joe Thuney, this is going to be a perfect situation for this because he's got a shade. He's going to back block. Everyone else is basically running mid-zone, and Orlando Brown is just going to base up the left side defensive end here. But this is the hardest block than maybe all of football because Creed Humphrey is getting ready to snap the ball to his quarterback and then pull, which is really hard because it's like almost having a reach block and then amplifying it by about 10 because you got to be able to get out of there after you get the exchange off and hand it off. And you'll see Thuney, this is just such an easy block for him. Orlando Brown, he's kind of like sealing in. He's making sure he doesn't get beat inside. But look at 48. When 48 sees Thuney go away, he is not even really looking at Creed. He looks like he's eyeballing the backfield because he sees 62 go away. That's usually when the Chiefs are getting ready to run counter or something along those lines, or they're getting ready to run maybe power to the weak side of the field. And all of a sudden, he's got Creed in his face, Pacheco with one cut. By the way, Trey Smith with just, we said week after week, he's starting to look like a real all-pro player. And look at the explosion out of the stance to pick off the linebacker and move him.
Love that.
That is probably one of the most ridiculous plays of the entire NFL week that'll never get noticed by too many people. But he's just out of the gates, Creed out of the gates. They're doing a lot of this, I think, because the tackles just aren't athletic enough to block true outside zone. But what they're doing with this, they're setting up a situation now where they could run maybe some toss and get Creed pulling wide, or, they're getting themselves into situations to run more pin and pull, to run these different looks, which I like because they're diversifying the run scheme as we head into the playoffs. And I really think it is going to play a big role. And, Pacheco struggled, the fumble, gave up a big sack early, but Andy Reid and EB, they kept going back to him the entire game. And I don't know, you just got to love that whenever the coaches have the confidence in the guys, but late in the game, they didn't want any sort of mistakes. Interesting look. The Texans have a lot of guys on the line of scrimmage here, but really Andy Reid put the sorcery on him here because you got the pre-snap motion. Guy is following the pre-snap motion from Sky Moore. You see him on the left side of the screen right now. The safety follows him. Watch Noah Gray, and he's getting ready to have another guy follow. Noah Gray's getting ready to go back on his seal block. They're running zone to the left here. But watch 25 follows Noah Gray also, almost like they're expecting them to be getting ready to run a passing concept, like they're following them like they'd be playing man. And really, they're handing it off, but it just turns into this, a little bit of patience from McKinnon, and all of a sudden he's off to the races on the zone play here. And they get this great pre-snap motion. They get this in-play movement to really – they really declutter the play side of the field. So that makes it easy for Joe Thuney to work up to 58 and kick him out. And again, Trey Smith with a reach block on a linebacker all the way across. Wiley and Creed both get beat. But watch just that little bit of hesitation, and McKinnon makes his cut perfectly. As Trey's got his head on the right. Trey's got his head to the play side. He's sealed this block. But now watch, because McKinnon makes his cut and Trey's got this separation now. Well, 48's not going to get there, and 5 is getting cut off by 48 because McKinnon's helping his blockers. Creed bodies back a little bit, gives them just enough to hold them up, and that's the ball game. The Chiefs won it right there on that play. And, it's equal parts McKinnon being a savvy blocker. We've got so many instances this year of, of the Chiefs offensive line making the backs look good. This is one of the first games I think McKinnon helped make the offensive line look good and help set them up to make their blocks better. But it was really fun to see them get after it, and I think they had 25 total carries between Pacheco and McKinnon. They averaged about 5.8. That's true efficiency right there. And really, people get me wrong all the time because they're like, you're saying run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. I want them to run the ball smart. I don't want them just out there just punch. I don't want them out there just slugging it out like it's 1940. I don't want that at all. I want this conscious effort to be able to mix and match different run plays here and there, because you do have Patrick Mahomes, and if you can incorporate some smart, well-timed, creative run plays here and there, you're probably going to be ripping people for some big chunks.
Yes, it's a perfect play. It's a perfect mix, change up in the playoffs. I guess the off-speed pitch in the playoffs, right? No one really sees you becoming that variable run team where you're running power, counter, pin, pull, wipe. Which yes, I'm unfamiliar with, and you will have to teach me more about maybe at a later time. But no, you mentioned the Jerick McKinnon, making his line better, and that's something me and Nate talked about when you filled in on out of structure, Nate. If you remember, we were blaming the running backs the most out of the scheme, the offensive line, and the running backs. Who was the most responsible for an inefficient ground game? And we said the running backs, and I think we were right, because Jerick McKinnon, man, when this dude is feeling it, his vision is what makes this run game. And Caleb, that was an awesome. I was just loving that, dude. I was just over here just enjoying the hell out of that, because you're right, man. He was setting up his blocks perfect, and that's what this zone run game can do. And if they mix in a few more of those gap runs too, man, that will be really cool. And again, another off-speed pitch they can throw in the playoffs. But you know what their bread and butter is, guys? It's the pass offense. It's Mahomes. That's what it is. And the crazy part about Sunday was, as weird of a game as it was, might have been one of the most impressive performances of Mahomes' career. Dude set the NFL record for completion percentage for a quarterback with 40 or more pass attempts. He had 88% completion percentage. And the thing is, I'm going to be showing some of his misses or some of his incompletions, and they're so close to getting done that I just can't imagine what his game would have been like if he makes these. But I'm looking at the main thing for me I want to look at here is the fact that the Texans gave them a good amount of one high looks, a good amount of opportunities to get big chunk pass plays against just one high safety. They trusted Jalen Petrie back there. Jalen Petrie, the rookie safety, obviously a playmaker, obviously a really good dude coming up. But as a free safety, it's the NFL. It's a different animal. And I do think the Chiefs had opportunities to take advantage of him as the one high safety. And it started on the first drive. This was one of his 5 misses. And I've looked at this play over and over, and I've had so many different ideas about why this kind of went wrong. When I watch it in the game, the first thing I think is, oh, for some reason, Mahomes thought he was going to flatten out, and he went vertical, right? That was my first initial thought. And that's a read on this, right? If it's too high look, you will need to flatten out and get away from the safety towards the sideline. If it's a one high, you need to get vertical and get going and score a touchdown here. And that's what MVS does with his route, which is actually a great route here. You see him, you fake the inside and really create separation. Great route. Awesome by MVS. But Mahomes kind of throws it short, and you're thinking, what the heck? And I look at it again. I'm like, oh, well, he just short arms it. Mahomes kind of just maybe, how he gets sometimes. He just kind of flicks it out there without stepping into it too much. You can kind of see it here. That was my second thought too, and I really was kind of sold on that one. But I need your guys' take here, because it seems like the ball's out by the time Orlando Brown's pressure gets there. But the more I look at it, the more it does feel like, and Mahomes, he does step on Mahomes' foot, as if you can kind of see right there. He steps on his foot a little bit. Hey, Orlando Brown Jr., left tackle, big dude. Isn't he supposed to be able to take on a bull rush from Ogba Okoronkwo, the light outside linebacker? I remember from a few years ago from the draft. I mean, you can't allow this pressure, right? And that's where he just gets walked back. I mean, I know you're expecting the speed rush, so you're walking him back, but I just feel like if you're this powerful dude, man, you got to be able to sit back once you engage and really absorb that dude. This dude's not that strong of a guy. He's not a strong rusher. He's more of a light guy. And so I don't know. Can you guys see this well enough to do you think this does affect his throw? Because I do think there is something to Mahomes kind of not stepping into this either. I don't know, Nate. Let me get your thought on this real quick.
It's tough. It might have affected the end of the throw.
Right, the follow through, and that's what shorts it.
Yeah, he certainly takes a weird angle on it. I mean, that's a terrible pass set by Brown. I mean, he just catches 45. I'm not going to pretend to say his name. And, like, doesn't...
yeah, I tried to.
Yeah, it sounded good to me. But, like, there's, like, no weight, like, on his inside foot at all. I mean, that's just sloppy technique. I'm going to keep it at that. But, like, that was just a bad pass set.
Caleb, I want your opinion on this.
45 gets his hand on first. He wins the inside hand battle. He wins the leverage battle, and he walks him back. Maybe Pack could have stepped up another half a foot, but then if he does, you're putting yourself in a position where 45 can rip off and maybe get a sack there. And, this deep developing play, he needs to be deep in the pocket here. That's a really tough set for Brown, especially, I mean, even you get that wide angle. At least, Wiley has help from, I believe, McKinnon.
Yeah.
One of the good things McKinnon did there. There you see how kind of wide it has to be, and Brown he gets walked back there really quickly.
Yeah, it's just Mahomes knows he has a big player. It's a smash concept. It's a one high look. You're looking for a big play in this situation. It's screaming at you, and MVS sets it up perfectly. I just don't think Mahomes had any doubt that this was going to be open for a big play vertically, and so that's where it's just this throw had to be affected by the hit. So it's just unfortunate because that's one of three plays I'm going to show that they had an opportunity to make a big play against a one high look and just could not. This next play is actually going to drive you the craziest. Maybe it could have been one of the biggest plays of the year. We all remember it, but maybe in the back of your head, backed up to at the 3-yard line, it's a first down. And I really like this play call. Let's fake the fullback dive that we do all the time. Let's make the Texans think we're going to do, the typical thing we do just to get the yards and get some breathing room. But they fake it. Mahomes is rolling out, although I'll show you Lucas Niang actually gives up a little pressure here to make him roll out more. But here's the thing here. This is Andy wanting a big play. This is Andy saying, look, I am tired of not getting big play looks. I'm going to produce a big play. It's 1st and 10 from my own 3-yard line. I don't care. I want to take advantage of the fact that the Texans are going to be thinking run. They're going to be in a one high look where the safety is 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. I want to make a play. But the problem with this is he has Justin Watson as the guy making this play. And that's where this is going to drive me a little crazy. This pops wide open. This is exactly what happens. And before I get to the play by Watson, Kelsey comes across as a shallower cross. And look what Jalen Petrie does. He's eyes on Kelsey right away, right? He's paying attention to Kelsey. He's already really shallow, shallower than most safeties would be because of the situation. Boom. By the time he sees Watson passing him, it's too late. Watson's blowing by him. He's got 5 yards of separation. So this play is wide open. What I don't understand is why this play ends in Watson sliding to the ground for the catch. It seems like he can run under it, and in the end zone angle, maybe even a better look. It might be. It doesn't give you the greatest look. But I just don't understand why this isn't a 97-yard touchdown, because it sure looks like it should be. And that's where the Watson thing came into it. Why isn't this Sky Moore? Why isn't this, I know McCall Hardman's not playing, but Kadarius Toney, I know Toney's not the biggest deep speed guy. He's more of a quick guy. He did run a pretty fast 40 in the combine, but Justin Watson's fast too. Don't get me wrong. I know, and he's made plays this year, but there's a reason he is wide receiver 6. He is a solid player. But when we want to make some plays, and I get not having MVS as this guy, right? It's too obvious. The defense is going to maybe expect it. He's your big deep threat guy. So I understand that part of this. But Sky, why not put Sky Moore in this situation? That's maybe my main grip, because I think Sky Moore runs under this, and it's a 97-yard touchdown. But for some reason, Justin Watson feels the need to go to the ground with it, and he actually just loses it. He could have caught it. It's not like it was short. He could have caught it. And the reason it's not any further out is because you'll see here, they fake the fullback dive, obviously. Niang gets beat inside, which, hey, you haven't, you've been on not playing And, I get it. It's tough. It's hard, but it'd be nice for you to get that block. But it's fine because it doesn't really affect Mahomes that much. He just is able to throw running to his side 55 yards in the air while a guy is jumping in his face. And I would just think a receiver would be able to run under this. There's enough air in it. There's enough, we need to make this play. And it just drives me crazy that Mahomes had this great of a game and he only has 5 incompletions, and 2 of them were these just maddening where it's like they could have been huge plays. They both could have been touchdowns, but those both honestly should have been touchdowns. Then you're talking about one of the greatest performances in NFL history. I mean, 90% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, all that. But one last look, it's actually not an incompletion, but it is a one high look. And this one is just a little annoying because Mahomes actually messes this one up and should have a touchdown here, but he doesn't throw it. It's a one high look. We're getting that same look. It's a third down. This is third down in overtime, I should say. This is third down in overtime where, they had to punt after this. And Mahomes drops back. There's man coverage, cover 1, right? You got your safety over the top, all press cover 1. We're going vertical a couple ways, though, a couple places here. And they both come from the slot to the right side. And so it splits the safety. And Mahomes really wants the safety to go with Watson here. He's like banking on it. And he's banking on it so much that when the safety doesn't go with Watson, he just has to eat it and take this 12-yard sack. And I should probably show it better with my mouse, but Watson is the vertical here. He's going to this side, and he's open, right? He got the separation. He's winning vertically. Mahomes can put it on him. The safety does not choose to cover him, right? He chooses to stay on top of MVS over here, and that's where Mahomes looks, which you get a better look from the end zone angle. He's trying to make the safety go with Watson, with the play design, with his eyes. He's staring him down. Look at his footwork. And I know the footwork is maybe from the pressure a little bit too, but and they're actually no. I would say it is from the fact that he wants him with this drop step to think he's going to Watson, right? He wants it so bad that he just misreads it. He just needs to live with what the safety does, which is go with MVS, and then he has to adjust and throw to Watson. And this is kind of basic stuff, which is just the annoying part of this play, is because I know Mahomes knows. It's not like Andy Reid's telling him in the coaching, in the film room, and he doesn't understand the fact what he did wrong here. It's just annoying because it could have been a huge play. It could have been the game-winning play. This is an overtime. And it's just the third play that I've shown where they just could not execute against a one-high look, which Mahomes against one high should be like the biggest red flags, like lights going off. Like that should be big play, all over the place, like every down, every time. And they can't get 3 of these plays to convert. And I know there's different things that happen on each of them, but it was just an example to me of just, kind of these receivers maybe not making enough plays, because that Watson thing is an example, but also just Mahomes kind of brain farting maybe, or just kind of forcing things sometimes. Again, I think he forces that read, right? If he just reads it out like he should, if he sees Petrie move to MVS's side, any quarterback knows you just adjust, go to your vertical on the other side, boom, it's a 60-yard touchdown if he's getting separation. So that is that. Mahomes is going to be fine, but it's just it's one of those annoying things. That is all our topics today, and we talked about a lot, guys. I don't know. We got 3 games to go. We got Christmas this weekend. Got a Christmas Eve game. Any I don't know, how are we feeling about the rest of the season, Nate? Let's I guess stay on our each topic. Do you feel like the defense can get better from the things you pointed out? Do you feel like the linebackers can kind of play better? What do you give your final thoughts on that kind of stuff?
I don't know. I mean, I hope, I guess they have to, right? I mean,
hope is good.
Like I'm not going to say, because this defense isn't as bad as it was in 2018. Like, let's make this perfectly clear. The 2018 defense was awful. This defense is much, much better than that. Like, I don't care what people say.
Yes.
But if the Chiefs are going to beat Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert or Josh Allen, they're going to have to get a stop or two. You cannot, I wrote about this today. Margin of error is a very, very real thing in the NFL. You cannot expect your offense to be perfect for 60 minutes. You just can't. It's impossible. Ask the 2018 Chiefs. They were bad for one half on offense, and it cost them a Super Bowl. That D Ford. But, like, defense is going to have to carry its weight somewhat. Like, at some point, it's going to have to carry its weight. I don't know if it will, we have 3 weeks to build up confidence. So that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, confidence is a big thing with defense. So I think you're right. Confidence is a huge thing this last stretch. But Caleb, kind of not the same question, because I think the run game is notably gelling, and we can all see it. But how, do you think it's actually going to make, a noticeable impact, or maybe a bigger impact than it has in the past? Do you see this run game being better than it has been, more impactful than we've even seen in years past in the playoffs?
Well, I think it will, and this year I think it has to. Last year they could have used it, but you still have the explosion of Tyreek Hill that can get you out of situations where, like Nate mentions, that margin of error. Tyreek Hill has shrunk that. This year they don't have that, so they need to be able to hold on to the ball a little bit here and there. But I don't know if you guys follow weather patterns. We're getting ready for an absolutely brutal winter. It's going to be here Saturday for sure. I know Patrick Mahomes can sling it in any kind of conditions, but really the kind of weather we're supposed to be getting the next month or so, it's going to be really, really nice if they could run the ball in some of this, because the ball's going to be hard out there. It's going to be like 11 degrees on Saturday. You've got a rookie running back from New Jersey. You've got a veteran who's played some snaps outside in the cold in Minnesota before. I think that it's going to be one of those things where it's going to, sneak up on people a little bit, because these teams sell out to stop Mahomes. I think that white play that we went through, I think that you might see that as just the very tip of the iceberg for maybe some of the creativity we can see from the run scheme as we head into January.
Right. No, you're right. There's a reason all 6 of my season tickets are sold. I am not going Saturday for a reason. It is going to be cold. Anyone going out there, you are a brave soldier and a true Chiefs fan. I'll be out there in the playoffs no matter what, though. No matter the temperature in the playoffs, you got to be there. So no excuse there. But appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate Nate, Caleb bringing great insight, great analysis. It's a fun time. As much as we're nitpicking, some things about this team, this team's ready to go on a playoff run. We'll be here breaking it all down every week for the most part. So for Ron, for Caleb, for Nate, this is the Arrowhead Pride Film Room. Check us next time. Appreciate you watching.